Welcome to episode number 304 of the Marine Layer podcast. The Mariners lose Game 1 of the American League Division Series. We were there. We'll break it all down.
Reminder to you guys, man, you can hear our voices. If you guys want to support the channel, please make sure to like, comment, and go subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching, it really does help. If you're listening, please go rate and review, leave it 5 stars, go download the episode, and then follow us across social media at Marine Layer Pod and check everything out at our website at marinelayerpod.com.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording on late Saturday night, October 4th, and I'm tired of the Mariners.
Dude.
In my lifetime, I've watched 2 playoff games at home, 29 innings of baseball, over $600 spent on tickets, 2 runs, 2 losses, and plenty of bad managerial decisions along the way. I mean, what the fuck?
I mean, you're going to have to stop me at some point in this podcast.
Oh,
because
don't worry.
It's so bad. It's so bad. You know what? Let's get everything else out of the way first. Let's do the offense, and then we can dive into what we very, very strongly reacted to on social media. So let's do the offense first. Not enough runs scored. 2 runs, bullpen game, at home. Aside from Julio and Cal, nobody stepped up. They just didn't have it. It was a bad offensive night, and they just could not come through in any situation aside from Julio, both with his home run and his single. That was it.
And, there's people leaving us comments, and I saw some people talking. It's like, oh, we'll get to the pitching version of Dan Wilson, but it's like, Dan Wilson pushing buttons on the offense and needing a pinch hit. And I'm sitting here looking at this starting lineup the Mariners rolling out. It's like, why can't these guys be the 9 guys that hit? It doesn't matter who's coming out of the bullpen. The Tigers threw 2 lefties. They threw Brant Herter and, gosh, what was the other guy's name? They threw another lefty who is not one of the most dominant left-handers I've ever seen in the world. So if someone's complaint about the offense could be, oh, there were situations in the 5th and 6th or 7th inning that Dom Canzone or Victor Robles could have been pinch hit for, and they could have generated more offense. I just don't see that. The Mariners hitters outside of Cal and Julio went 0 for 28 with 1 walk. They reached base 1 time the entire game. There's got to be a point where the team's throwing a bullpen game, and you got to put pressure on them. You got to make AJ Hinch with that sly fucking smirk on his face to make a decision under pressure. He did not really have to make many pressure decisions as a manager tonight because the Mariners didn't put pressure on him. They had 1 inning where Julio drove in a run. They had Julio hitting a solo home run, and then nothing else. There was no pressure on any of the Tigers pitchers really all game. The crowd tried, but that clearly wasn't enough to rattle anybody.
No, nothing. Not enough. God, can people tell our voices are just cooked? I mean,
could you imagine if we were there for 7 more innings?
Oh my God. I mean,
no,
dude. I mean,
not going back to that.
There was a lot of screaming going on. Shocker coming from me. Well, even TJ, and TJ's usually the mellow one of the 2 of us, but he was going through it tonight too.
I certainly lost my voice. Here's another note with this offense, too. It's not all just bad approach. Dom Canzone didn't have a good night at the plate. Victor Robles didn't have a good night at the plate. JP scorched a ball, and I'll get to this point here in a second. But otherwise, I didn't think had a really great night at the plate. Randy was okay. Naylor didn't really hit a ball that hard all game. Gino was not good at the plate tonight. Gino was...
I mean, and
he has been really struggling.
That's been a problem for about a month now.
Yeah. I thought the Mariners did get a little unlucky offensively as well tonight. Here's some, if we want to dive into the numbers a little bit deeper. The Tigers barreled one ball all night, and a barrel is a combination of launch angle and exit velocity. Can we guess, Lyle, which ball that was?
Kerry Carpenter.
Right. So they had one barrel ball all night, resulted in 2 runs. The Mariners barreled 5 balls tonight. You know how many landed for hits?
How many?
1. Julio's home run. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 others that were barreled tonight that the Mariners did not get hits on. There was Josh Naylor, flew out. 610 expected batting average, would have been a home run in 2 parks, out. Fly out for J.P. Crawford there in the 8th inning. That would have been huge. 880 expected batting average, out. Yeah, not great. Randy, fly out, 102 off the bat. Home run in at least one ballpark, 620 expected batting average. Jorge Polanco, 370-foot flyout, another barrel. No good results for the Mariners. Like, there's really no good way to spin it. They didn't walk enough. They didn't put enough pressure on the Tigers. They didn't get lucky. If there was any way to even if, like, we're not small ball people, but there's nothing else to put pressure on it. So, like, even once things weren't landing, if they were to thinking, like, maybe Luke Raley, when he came into the game, was thinking about trying a push bunt with no one on. They didn't try that either. Whether or not we agreed with the decision or not, the end result was not good enough. There wasn't any pressure. There wasn't any guys on base besides Cal and Julio, and ultimately there is unlucky and not enough results on the field. And if we're going to just paint a big picture here, that right there is the biggest reason why they lost. We'll talk about the other huge reason in the game. Reason in the game. But if I were to tell you, Lyle, that the Mariners in a bullpen game against Detroit were going to score 2 runs in 11 innings, what would you think?
It's a fair point. It's totally
2
fair.
runs in 11 innings. Bullpen game. Detroit is coming in on fumes. They have exerted every bit of energy possible in the first series. They're throwing their middle-of-the-pack bullpen at you without any real dominant arms in any sense. And you scored 2 runs in 11 innings. How are you supposed to win like that? I came in here and said, the Mariners lineup is so much better than the Guardians lineup.
Tigers.
They should be able to handle this Tigers pitching staff, and they did not. And that's a problem. If they play like the Guardians, play down to the Guardians' level of talent, then that's an issue.
Sorry, I see what you're saying. You're comparing them to the Guardians when the Guardians were playing the Tigers. Okay, I got it.
Guardians scored more runs.
Yep. Yeah, they did. Okay, so through 7.5 minutes of this podcast, I think it's fair to say offense wasn't good enough. It's that simple. We've got more to talk about, but do you want to read an ad first?
Yeah, we want to talk to you guys about our experience at the Lids store on Saturday. For some of you who are listening who sort of who came to the Lids store because of us, Pod Listener was the one who actually got the 1-of-1 Cal Raleigh signed card. That was a really cool experience. The turnout was great. If you missed it, go back and listen to Friday's podcast where we sort of described the event. There was a 1-of-1 Cal Raleigh card hidden in the Lids store, and a listener of ours went and found it. It was a really fantastic experience. I want to thank Lids for having us out and for all the other fun experiences there. Make sure to go check out the Seattle team store there at the Bellevue Square where we were today. And if you guys want a little bit extra of what they have to offer there, they have customizable hats, really great selection, and they also have the Bowman Chrome hobby packs for retail price, not the prices on the secondary market. Lyle and I got to rip a pack there. We'll have a video coming out soon enough on our social channels where we ripped some pretty cool cards. And if you see something you like in there and you want to purchase it. Text code BASEBALL to 29017 to get 20% off your next purchase. That's code BASEBALL to 29017 for 20% off your next purchase at Lids. A lot of fun. Great working with them today.
It was awesome. Thank you guys to everybody who came out. It was really fun. Shout out to Lids. Are we ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We did our crash out version of this on social media, clearly, because first off, you can just tell by the way, certainly I'm talking. By the way, probably both of us are talking in that video. But we'll keep it a little cooler to start this, to lay the numbers out for everybody, and then we'll probably just go in again. But let's just start here. absolutely unacceptable from Dan Wilson. Absolutely unacceptable. Those numbers are right in front of you. They're right in front of you. And by every account, they were either ignored or never looked at. Because anyway, on social media, I was saying...
And the situation you're laying out is...
Good point. The home run in the 5th inning from George Kirby to Kerry Carpenter. Now, when we were talking about this on social media, I got some words wrong because, again, head spinning, we're seeing red. I said things like Carpenter crushes lefties because I was probably talking a million miles an hour. No, Carpenter crushes righties. He doesn't hit lefties at all. The idea here was to go to the lefty in that situation, take Kirby out of the game for as good as he'd been. Nothing about that matchup in a tight, massive game favored that matchup. They ignored it, and Carpenter absolutely unloaded on that baseball. Do you want me to go through the numbers, or do you want to read them?
You can go through the numbers here in a second. Let me just give you my first thoughts on this. I find it hard to believe that the Mariners organization, when we talk about some of the decisions they make, they like to make organizational decisions on how they manage the roster and how they strategize games. There's just too many people, too many smart people working in the org for them to let any scenario slip past them where they get to a situation and they say, oh, I don't know what to do. Well, I haven't thought about this yet. So they had Kerry Carpenter versus George Kirby third time through mapped out with X amount of runs lead. This scenario changes if the Mariners do what they probably should have against the Tigers bullpen and lit them up like the Brewers lit the Cubs up in Game 1 today. And they take it to him early, and then it's like, all right, who cares? Like, let's get George Kirby through 5. Doesn't matter if he gives up a nuke to Kerry Carpenter. Do what you got to do. But there was nothing to back up the decision of leaving George Kirby in the game against Carpenter third time through there in that 5th inning. And it's not like they just wanted length out of George Kirby, because guess what? If you would have pulled him there, you would have pulled George Kirby at 4 2/3 innings. What did they do with George Kirby? They pulled him after 5. It's not that much of a difference. They didn't send him back out there for the 6th to try and get... If they thought that they liked the matchup of George Kirby versus the Tigers lineup after Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter, because they're righties or they're just not as good, in which case I came on this podcast before and I said I didn't think the Tigers were that good, and I would have been a little bit more okay with it. But the specific scenario, up 1 run with Kerry Carpenter at the plate, with everything you're about to lay out, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, we're struggling to understand why that decision was made.
I mean, again, the only explanation is either Dan Wilson is not looking at the numbers or he's ignoring the numbers. It's that simple. You're right. There is too many people in the organization to not go through everything. There's so many smart people in the org. There's no doubt this was presented. You remember when, obviously, Yordan Alvarez walked off the Mariners? We've talked about this. The Mariners went through that exact scenario. They planned through this stuff. I'm not saying that was executed well, but believe it or not, the matchup was right for that, because the idea was get Ray in there. He does not get his slider hit against lefties. So the idea was have him throw sliders to Yordan to get him out. Unfortunately, he was not throwing sliders. The fastball was what killed him. But the idea there was a sound process. It was. It just, the execution was wrong. Here, I don't know what the hell is going on, because you're right. There's no way the Mariners front office doesn't know what we know. All you have to do is pull up a baseball reference page. It's public to us. It's public to you. It's public to everybody listening to this podcast. It's public to every fan. It's absolutely public to the people in the Mariners front office who have all this data and plenty more. So there's no doubt they can see what we see. And here's what's in front of them and in front of us. George Kirby, the 3rd time through an order, entering this game. Actually, for the season. George Kirby, 3rd time through the order this season, has a 929 OPS against him. In other words, he has been absolutely crushed the 3rd time through the order all year. It's almost untenable. That says every hitter is destroying him as a whole, 3rd time through the order, lineups as a whole. The idea, we said, was to go get Gabe Spire to pitch to Kerry Carpenter in that situation. Left on left. Kerry Carpenter this year against left-handed pitching is hitting .238, and his OPS is in the 600s. To be exact, it's 638 against left-handed pitching. Would you like Kerry Carpenter's splits for his career? He has a career .866 OPS against right-handed pitching a career 606 OPS against lefties. Kerry Carpenter is a borderline non-big league hitter against left-handed pitching. So that part's laid out, right? Kirby gets crushed the third time through an order. Carpenter hits righties extremely well, and he does not hit lefties. Kerry Carpenter also had 4 home runs in 10 at-bats against Kirby going into that matchup. 4 homers. Carpenter crushes Kirby. He owns him. It's just a matchup that doesn't favor him. Now, what could they have done? Again, we're saying go to the lefty. Go to Gabe Speier, who was warming in that bullpen, by the way. Speier and Ferguson, the 2 lefties, were both warming. None of them came in the game. And Gabe Speier for the year, which side do you want? You want the lefty-lefty? We'll tell you. Gabe Speier against lefties this year has a 179 batting average against and an OPS against of 516. So Kerry Carpenter hits in the 600s OPS-wise against lefties, while Gabe Speier is giving up an OPS against lefties in the 500s. Would you say that matchup is sound? I would. Everything about that says go get Gabe Speier in to face Carpenter. Now, how about Speier at home? What does Gabe do at home? Does he pitch well at home versus on the road? At home this season, Gabe Speier has a 160 ERA, 160, and it gets better than that, a whip of 0.59. He doesn't get hit at home. He doesn't get hit against lefties. Carpenter doesn't hit lefties. He crushes righties. Kirby gets crushed a third time through the order, and Kirby is worse against lefties than righties. We just laid out every single number about this matchup. So let me ask you again. Did Dan Wilson ignore the numbers, or did he never look at them? Somebody looked at them. He did. It seems like.
But here's what's confusing. You had both lefties hot in the bullpen. Like, clearly somebody was thinking about it.
So why didn't they go to him?
I don't know. Did they get cold feet? Because after Carpenter homers, Kirby stays in the game and Riley Green gets a base hit. Like, if you have both of your lefties up in the bullpen, for this scenario, if we're going to sit here on this podcast in our series preview and say you cannot let Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter beat you, anybody else, because you have the advantage, anybody else you can let beat you. You cannot let Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green, the only 2 bad matchups really you have in that Tigers lineup, beat you. And the Mariners have their guys warm in the bullpen for that scenario, and they still took a mound visit before that Kerry Carpenter at bat, but decided not to pull the trigger. That feels like cold feet, but I don't understand why. If they didn't look at the numbers, there probably would have been a righty up in the bullpen. But no, like, they're thinking about it because there's lefties up in the bullpen.
Okay, so then...
So what? Like, you don't know the answer to this question. I don't know the answer to this question. Only the coaching staff knows, and they're not going to say it publicly.
Well, they never say anything publicly. This is half the problem. Like there's no answers given ever to decisions that are made.
It just feels like the decision was like thought out and ultimately decided not to get used, which is confusing. It's confusing. Like Dan has to make the call down to the bullpen to tell them to warm somebody up.
Yep. Yeah. So you're okay. So fine. So
he's thinking about it. So why the cold feet then?
So he chickened out, or he like tried to quote unquote go with your gut, even though zero things favored that matchup, and they did it anyway. So you think the answer here is he chickened out, got cold feet?
Sure.
I mean, it could have been any one of these things.
It could be any number of things.
Yeah. Again, somebody in the organization has these numbers. People are smart, way smarter than us up in that front office. There's no way they don't know what we know. This is all public. It's right there in front of you.
And the worst thing about all this, it's not even like George made a bad pitch. He threw a pitch up and out of the strike zone, like clearly up and out of the strike zone, and Carpenter still fucking crushed the ball.
Which
I think that was the highest pitch he's ever homered on in his career. I think Sarah Langs tweeted it out. Let me find it.
So then to answer your question, again, this is not like...
It is. Which, again, just makes me even more mad. It's like everything that could have gone wrong in that at-bat did. Every single thing.
Yeah. So that was the highest pitch Kerry Carpenter's ever homered in his career.
Ever.
Which again goes back to this. And maybe we didn't make this clear on social media. I mean, probably not because we were going crazy. But again, this is not about George Kirby. Kirby didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't do anything wrong in his own right to stay in that game. Again, they told him to stay in the game. He battled. He did the best he could. Ultimately, Carpenter just beat him. It's not on Kirby. It's on the decision makers to pull the plug there. And again, this is not about Kirby. I go out there, tell him, hell of a job, George. You did your job. You kept the boys in the game. You did everything we asked you to do tonight. Thank you. It's not about Kirby. Kirby pitched great. It's just in that matchup, you cannot play with fire there. That's what I tell him. Maybe Kirby would have been mad to get yanked that early, but you're right. They pulled him after 5 anyway, and you just have to tell him, look, we needed Gabe in there for that matchup. The game was too close. We couldn't mess with it. We have got to get out of this inning. It's that simple. It's not about Kirby. It's about the process and decision-making through that at-bat, which was totally unsound. So to your point about the Carpenter homer, it's nothing that Kirby could have done. Unfortunately, that is just a terrible matchup for Kirby. And not to mention, again, the fact that was the 5th Kerry Carpenter homer in 11 at-bats against George Kirby. It's just not a matchup that favors him. You kept him in check twice. Awesome. 3rd time through the order, which we talked about, does not favor Kirby. You've got to get him out. They didn't get him out. And here we are. Last thing on this. Actually, no, go ahead. You respond, then I'll save it.
Well, I have sort of a general game take off of this, but
okay. So last thing, we've been asked all year, man, you guys talk about Dan Wilson a lot in the bullpen decisions. Why? The team's winning. They're doing well. For this, this is what we've talked about all year. It's not about singular games they lose because they got the 2 seed, they got into the playoffs, ultimately had a great regular season. It's for this and praying and just hoping and wishing and stressing and harping on, please learn as you go on throughout the year about in-game bullpen decisions. Please don't let a playoff game cost you. It cost you, and it may have just cost you your season. That can't happen. It cannot happen, and it happened.
My general takeaway from how the Mariners managed this game, first game of Dan Wilson managing in the playoffs, did feel a little passive.
Yep.
That's not just the Kirby decision. It's what I mentioned earlier about not really pinch hitting at all. Not that there's great options to pinch hit on the bench, but they did not once really, outside of Luke Raley, go to a quote-unquote matchup off the bench. They did use all their leverage guys in the first 9 innings, but the game was also tied, so I understand why they did that. I saw some quibble about Bryce Miller potentially pitching that 11th inning instead of, we can get to him here in a second, Carlos Vargas. I don't know if I have a really strong take about that, but one I would think about is that it did feel a little passive to me in the managerial style.
The
last thing I need to mention about this Kirby and Kerry Carpenter decision, AJ Hinch was trying so hard to hide the smirk on his face seeing that matchup. People were making a big deal earlier today about AJ Hinch bringing this magic to the Detroit Tigers. I'm going to be honest, AJ Hinch didn't do shit today for the Tigers to help them win that game.
No.
All AJ Hinch did is let the Mariners make a mistake. That's what he did. There's no quasi outsmarting his opponent there. He just essentially managed the game how he should have, and they won the game from it. But he had a smirk on his face.
Well, you know what? As I'm going to put the tweet up for people to see. I'll put it on screen just so people can see what we're talking about. He's literally laughing at Dan Wilson. He's laughing. He's like, oh my God, you just let Kerry Carpenter hit for a 3rd time against Kirby? You know who I bet you had all those numbers that we're talking about right now? AJ Hinch. Because that's a guy that believes in analytics and looks at all the numbers and has all this stuff mapped out. He was caught laughing at the decision on camera.
Here's another thing to think about with this situation. If you bring in Gabe, what does AJ Hinch do? Do you take one of your 4 best hitters out of the lineup as an attempt to score?
Exactly, dude. That's why you've got to go do that and make that decision. You force the Tigers' hand. You either say, we're letting Carpenter face the lefty, or we're taking him out of the game, getting a righty, who, by the way, Gabe still thrives against righties, but you go get a righty, and then he is out of the game the rest of the contest. He's out. You forced the Tigers' hand, and you did not even pressure them into doing that. Did not pressure. There are zero
AJ Hinch
things
is
that
very happy he didn't have to make that decision.
What's that?
AJ Hinch is very happy he did not have to make that decision.
I mean, there are zero things that justified that decision. And again, I just want to stress this as much as possible. This is not on Kirby. Kirby did what he was asked to do. And ultimately, 4 2/3 innings, 2 runs, a lot of times should win you a playoff game. And that comes back to the offense, like we talked about, not doing enough. He did what he had to do in that at-bat. It's just a matchup that doesn't favor him. There's matchups that don't favor every pitcher. And when that happens, especially in a playoff game, you've got to act on it. Unfortunately, Kirby versus Kerry Carpenter is just not a matchup that works in Kirby's favor in any way. And if you're the manager, it's on you to act on it. And again, it may have lost you a game, and it may have lost you your season. I'm not saying season's over. Of course, it's just the first game of the series. Everybody knows who's pitching on Sunday. You don't need me to tell you who's pitching on Sunday. You're going to see the best in the world on the mound, and you got to go beat them. Yes, they beat them twice. We're going to see what happens in the playoffs.
And there's a chance you're without Josh Naylor in the lineup.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about that today because, again, it came out Sunday. But, yeah, Josh Naylor may be going on paternity leave at some point. He's probably going to. And Brian Woo's off the roster, which, to the Bryce Miller point, that's probably why he's not pitching out of the pen, because they may need him to start a game now.
That's fair, but he would pitch on Wednesday, and you'd only probably throw him out of the bullpen for an inning, maybe two.
So this is the last thing here, because I don't want to go too long. I don't think anybody wants to listen to an hour-long podcast. We're trying to keep these short after games. Carlos Vargas, man, you got to put somebody else in that game. Yeah. We said we didn't want to see him within any game within like 7 runs. He can't throw in a tie game in extra innings, and I'm not saying once you got past your main 4 guys that it's an easy call, because the weak link of the Mariners, yes, is the lower leverage, middle leverage guys of that bullpen, but somebody else has got to be in that game. Whether it's Emerson, whether it's Luke Jackson, it's got to be somebody else. There's just been too many times Vargas has run into this situation and he has not had it. He didn't have command, he did not make his pitches, and it cost him.
And the run almost entirely scored because of him.
Yep.
100. A leadoff walk in extra innings can't happen. Spiked a 100-mile-an-hour sinker that allowed Torque to take second base. And while the single was, a kind of bogus seeing eye single, like the only reason that matters is because of you giving a free second base. Essentially, taking the regular season extra innings rule and giving it to the Tigers for free while the Mariners don't get to use it.
Yep.
It's brutal. And it's tough to watch unfold in front of our eyes. And you called it. You didn't even want to watch. You're like, I'm not watching Carlos Vargas.
Oh, so we're gonna out me here. Okay. So we're in the trust. We're in the
gonna
trust
out you here.
We're in the trust tree here with everybody.
I don't think anyone listening is gonna be very shocked.
So we're in the trust tree with everybody listening. When Carlos Vargas came into that game in the 11th inning, I got up out of my seat, walked down the stairs and into the concourse because I told TJ and all our buddies we were sitting with, I'm not watching this. I got out of my seat, walked into the concourse, and just listened to Rick Riz on the radio pacing around, hoping I was going to be wrong, and Vargas got out of that inning. I was not wrong. He didn't. And I said I didn't want to watch that, and I wasn't going to watch it, and I didn't. No, I didn't watch that inning. I was not going to watch Carlos Vargas.
So big picture here, entering game 2. You have given the Tigers an out, essentially. The Tigers just threw their bullpen for 11 innings in game 1. They had to spend their bullpen a lot in games 2 and 3 against the Guardians. They were already going to be tired. You were hoping that you would head into a Tarek Skubal game with their bullpen exhausted and them down 0-1. Now assuming Tarek Skubal pitches well, he could crap the bed, but more likely he's going to come out and deal for at least 5 to 6 innings tomorrow. On Sunday, whenever you're listening to this. Actually, it is technically Sunday, so tonight, he could come out and shove, and that will get the Tigers bullpen back on track because they have an off day on Monday to rest. It works out a lot better if you go back to Detroit 1-1, losing to Tarek Skubal, than if you face an 0-2 hole heading on the road, because you had the favorable matchup in Game 1, where you have the pitching advantage, you have the lineup advantage, you have the home field advantage, and you piss it down your leg and don't take advantage of it. And now everything is working in the Tigers' favor, where they get to rest, they have a lead, they've taken home field back, and now you are backed against the wall. The stat is that in this format, if you lose Game 1 at home as the host team in the division series, best of 5 series, you now only win about 26% of the time.
Backs against the wall. I mean, think about it.
3 out of 4 times the Tigers will win this.
Think about it as simply as this. They get 2 starts remaining in this series with Tarek Skubal. It would be Game 2 and Game 5, so both the potential remaining home games in this series, and the other 2 they get in their ballpark. Backs against the wall.
So you got to win 3 of those. You're going to have to beat Skubal once or twice, and you're going to have to win a game in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to have to go win 3 in a row. I mean, beat Skubal tomorrow, like magically, I guess, prey on it, keep the game close, get him out of the game, and hopefully you get to the Tigers bullpen this time, and then go win both in Detroit and don't let the series come back to Seattle.
Just run up his pitch count.
Yep.
Make him uncomfortable in the 5th inning. Walk. Foul some pitches off. Run up that pitch count, something that they just did not do enough of tonight.
And if they lose this series, and again, it's not over. Things can change. You never know. It is baseball. If they lose this series, you better believe we are going to be talking about that at bat, Kirby versus Carpenter, all off season, into next season. I don't know if everybody views it like the Yordan at bat. I do. Right now, I do. Unless they win this series, I'm going to view that at bat all off season as this year's Yordan at bat. Except the Yordan at bat had sound logic to it. It was just poorly executed. This one wasn't terribly executed by Kirby. It is that he just never should have been in there to start. And there's a chance it costs the Mariners their season. There's a chance Dan Wilson's decision-making, as we feared a lot this year, could cost the Mariners their season.
If they were to lose the series, I guess for me it just depends how they lose the series. Like, the offense turtles for 3 games, then that's the blame.
Well, sure, but again, that game's a 2-0 win tonight for the Mariners, if not for Dan Wilson. For as bad as the offense was, that's a 2-0 Mariners win without Dan Wilson doing that. So how much changes with a 1-0 lead, even if you lose the Skubal start, and then you split in Detroit, and yes, you'd have to face Skubal again in Game 5, but then it's 2-2 coming back to your ballpark, etc. That game is going to be circled as a game that should have been the Mariners every single time. You faced a bullpen game, you had it at home, you had George Kirby going at home, favored you in every way. That matchup cannot be allowed to be deployed. They allowed it to be deployed. It killed them. It may cost them their season.
I'm going to send us into Game 2 with this. Everything needs to be better. Every single thing needs to be better. If it's not, you are going to lose a series to a team you are better than. And that, frankly, is just... It's not acceptable.
No, it's not. All right, again, we don't want to go too long, so let's wrap it up. Let's all reset, try to come back for Game 2. Again, cross your fingers and pay for Etsy witches and do whatever you have to do to find a way for the Mariners to beat Tarek Skubal in Game 2, because they need all the voodoo they can cook up for this. They got to find a way to beat him. So let's do that. All right. That just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to follow, or if you want to listen to the podcast or listen to the Whole Form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. If you're listening on audio, make sure to download. Please rate and review 5 stars. It really does help if you do. Also, if you're on YouTube, like, comment, and go hit subscribe. Just take a second to go hit the red subscribe button right in front of you. It really does help the channel. Everything we're doing is over at our website, too, marinelayerpod.com. Our merch is there, Patreon, live show schedule. Reminder, we're going to do a watch party for Game 3 over at Queen Anne Beer Hall in Seattle. We'd love to have you there on Tuesday. It's going to be a blast. So come on out to that. And you can find everything at our website, marinelayerpod.com, and follow us all across social media at marinelayerpod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.